Welcome to APCUG's Wednesday Workshops. We're starting a little bit late today because, as Judy likes to say, we do this warts and all. And today we had a big wart and all. Internet is off, so there's a way to do it. I went and got a hotspot on my phone, and we'll see how that can hang through this. Today we're meeting together to have a beginner's Linux workshop. This is a one for beginners, and I have a feeling, because I know that Kurt's here and he's not a beginner, that we have some people here who aren't total beginners, and you're just here to find out what kind of mistakes I'm going to make during my presentation. But today's idea is, we've been talking about Linux in our Learning Linux workshops, which will be back next month. And people have now said, okay, so I've loaded up Linux, now what do I do? And this workshop is, you're all invited, but it's for Judy. And I'm trying to help Judy be able to feel very comfortable and don't fear the penguins. And it's going to be very, very beginning basics. Bill James will be taking care of any issues that you might have with Zoom. So you can chat with him specifically. And then Judy will take all questions that you have that we will be answering. And Judy will determine whether it's something that she says, John, stop a second, we need to answer this. And or we'll wait till later. This is going to be a two-part. One part is I'm going to show what I kind of usually do to make the computer work for me, instead of me working for the computer, with some personalizations and setting up. And then the second part is I'm just going to be kind of doing a day in the life of an average everyday Linux user, and run through what I do and things like that, so that the beginners can see, number one, there's no real difference. I do Linux and I do the same things I've been doing for, what was it, 1979, since the 80s. I'm doing the same things. I'm just using it on a Linux base and not a Windows base. And I will say that the biggest problem that I run into with some Linux people is over the idea of choice. First off, the reason I use Linux, I'm not going to go into detail because we've done that a number of times on our workshops, but 3 factors. It's free, it's open, and it has choices. And that's the problem. Linux has choices. When we started out in Windows way back when, we didn't have choices. Microsoft says, here is what you're using. And we used it. And we used it. They said, here, use this. And so we've gotten used to what Microsoft terminology is for their operating system. They didn't have any choices, so it was their baby. Well, this is what we're going to call it. As an example, they called their browser Internet Explorer because it was exploring the internet. They called their file manager Windows Explorer, which was really a confusing thing because you're not exploring Windows, you're exploring your files. So that's why Microsoft now calls it File Explorer, because you're exploring files. Now, on the Linux side, there are choices. Because of open source, people can take a program and they can redesign it to what they think makes it even better. Because we have so many choices, we have to have different names. And a lot of times that's what confuses people, is this naming situation. So I'm going to hopefully try to get you to be more comfortable with that. One of the things I do is I'm using a Debian-based Linux, because we talked about there are different branches of Linux, like there are different branches of cars. I'm using the Debian, which I would kind of say maybe was at the time General Motors, maybe the most popular. It's not necessarily the best, it's just the one that's more known. And so when I started out, that's the kind of the family I'm comfortable with. I started out with the Ubuntu version, which would have been like the Oldsmobile of the General Motors. But I have switched to Mint because I like what their philosophy is and what they're doing. It's all personal, just like with cars. Not everybody drives the same brand of car or the make of car, but I like what they're doing. The third thing is of a why I use the Mate desktop. And that's because in Linux, we have options for a desktop environment. That means all the parts that go together to make your computer desktop. Windows, you only have one, so there's not a lot of choice. You can kind of customize it, but it's one choice. And so we have desktops with different names, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. I happen to be using the Mint Mate, and there's another naming thing that I need to clear up when you see it. I'm using version 20. They number it that way. Microsoft, you know very well, went back and forth. They went Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows 2000. Then they changed the naming XP, and then they went Vista. Now they're back to numbers again. But within those numbers, they have versions. Like in the Windows 10, you know, we're all now used to the fact that Windows 10 has an H1 or 1H and an H1, H2 every year. So every 6 months, they come out with a kind of a change. Linux kind of does the same way. Some Linux versions come out with a new version every 6 months. Some come out with updates like every 6 months. Mint uses version 20 right now, but every 6 months they come out with a point release that has some updates to it, and mainly it's for the people who are coming to Mint. And if they come to Mint a year after 20 gets started, there's a lot of updates. So if they take Mint 20.2, they'll get a whole year's worth of updates at once, and they don't have to take all of that. So right now we're in Mint 20.3 because we're a year and a half from when it first came out. Ubuntu does it by the year. They are running now 20.4 because it comes out in April of 20. So they have 20.4-1, 2, 3 for every 6 months of that coming out. As a code name, I guess you would call it, and I know that Windows had those in the background too. In code names, the Debian, which is the parent group, I guess you'd say, of what I'm using, he uses the names from the Toy Story movie. All of his new versions are a character from Toy Story. And what's funny is that the testing one, that's always the unstable one, is Sid. And if you've ever watched Toy Story, Sid was the kid next door that did nasty things to toys, took them apart, put them together like they shouldn't, blows them up. So they do that. Linux or Ubuntu uses a 2-word phrase, an adjective and an African type animal. Makes it kind of clever. Mint, I'm using, uses female names. And for the 19 version, it was Tara. For the 20 version, we are on Yolana. So the fact that they come out every 6 months with a point release, the 20 point or the 19.1 went from Tara to Tessa to Tina to Trisha, and I'm using Ulana, Ulissa. Uma was the last one, and now I'm on Una. So they're always you. So I'm assuming that the next 21 version will all be V names. So when you see that, all that is just a way for the developers to nickname in a some kind of a system the name. So I'm running Mint Mate 0.3, which is nickname code name Una. And for you Windows people, you're using Windows 11, 20. It'll be coming up 22.H1 or 1H because it's coming up to the new edition on that. So don't get hung up too much on names. And it's because there are many choices. We can't all be called the same thing. We can't all be called Linux, and we'll talk more about things on that later. Okay, so Judy, if it comes to the point that you need to interrupt me, you're the boss, so you can. I'm going to turn off my video and switch to my other computer because when I can't see myself, I flail my hands and things like that. And so we should be able to get to my other computer. Oh, and I'm using 2 sets of mouse and keyboards because I'm running 2 different things. So sometimes I grab the wrong one. So
are you using the red mouse?
I am using the red mouse.
Cool.
Yep. I'm not using the red headset though, it's hers. Okay. Okay, now I have to go back to the other side because I didn't make me a host or co-host. Okay, give me a second here. Still no internet.
Well, it's not 12:30 yet.
There we go. Presentation computer. All right, so now I can do that. All right, so now switch the monitor, switch to the other keyboard and mouse. I'll let you know just because for those people who are, Zoom runners and stuff, we tried the experiment of me using an AV switch and just switch my camera, headset, mouse, keyboard back between the 2 devices, and Zoom doesn't like that. So I'm running 2 complete sets today. Whoop, wrong mouse. All right, so now I can get started. And get rid of you guys. If I had my recording one up, Judy can confirm that you see my big LM in the middle of the screen.
Nice logo.
Okay, all right. Okay, so what I've done is I'm running a virtual machine because I needed to have a brand new, clean, untouched version of Linux, which we are happen to be using Mint Mate to demonstrate what all I wanted to show today. Got my nice cue cards here. So here's what's the default. This is the way it comes. I haven't touched it at all. And I'm going to change this because personally, I work a little bit different. One of the first things I do is I've got to change the clock. And you can't tell that it's not right yet, but give it another hour because it comes by default being a world clock. It's going to be in 24-hour times. So I'm just going to go down, and you can do this in Windows. And a lot of the things I'm going to relate or share with you. When Bill and I were working the other night and I was showing some of this stuff, it was fun because Bill said, oh, I can do that. Well, I can do that. And that's partly my whole point, is that everything that I'm doing, you can do in Windows because that's an operating system. Now, if I go to the clock, and if you don't know, the right click is your best friend. Right clicking gives you your menu of what you can do. You aren't going to hurt your computer when you right click, because all that does is bring up a menu. And when you're not quite sure what to do, learn right click. It's the right thing to do. So when I go to here, then I can get what's the other thing that you've always got to go and check out is anytime you right click and you have a settings or a preference, check it out and see what you can do. So I'm going to go to my preferences for my clock. And you can see right now that it's set for 24-hour. I haven't lived in the military, and so that clock just drives me crazy. It's bad enough trying to keep track of Judy's time and my son-in-law, or my son who lives in Nevada, with the West Coast time. So I've got to have it 12 hours so I know for sure. Now, while I'm also here, I don't need seconds. I'm not in that much of a hurry to know that. And for me, showing the weeks in the calendar, I'm not interested. I don't care that this is the 28th week of the year. I'm retired. 1 week is the next week and the day is date. But I will do, I want the weather and temperature because that shows up on here. So another thing that I'm going to do is change locations. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to just add my Newark. If you don't know that I'm from Newark, Ohio, not Newark, New Jersey. And so I can just go ahead and they know where my latitude, longitude is. And so I'm going to add that. And I do for fun. Oh yeah, reload it. Because it had to add the weather. And the other thing that I kind of like to do at times is I add my son's location, and he's in Henderson, Nevada. And he's in the Pacific time. And so I add that. Now it doesn't give me his weather. And part of this is virtual machines too. So now I've got my date and my time is in the 12 hours, so I can understand that better. And you can see that, it's only 7 degrees. Man, that's really cold, cold, cold. Oh, wait a second. I'm in the United States. We don't look at that. So I need to go back to my weather and say, give me good old Fahrenheit and miles per hour. None of that kilometers for you British type people. Okay, so now, well, it didn't do it much better. It says it's 15, but I know that it's warmer than that. It's got to take time to sink in. So now I've got my clock the way I want it. If I click on the time, I have a calendar, which is just what everybody does. This is not an appointment calendar. This is just a calendar, but it's the kind that you can look years into the future to find out when a date is. If I add my locations, this is kind of fun because then it gives me both of my times and I know where sunlight and darkness is. And when the first time I saw this kind of a map, I didn't realize that the day and dark line wasn't a straight line. So it's kind of a curvy for when that works. All right, so that's what I do to adjust my clock. And then if I move my mouse over to the weather, you can see I got clear sky. It's 44 degrees here with a southwest wind and our sunrise, sunset. So it's not a huge weather, but we'll talk about that later, but there it is and lets me know. So not too bad. Okay, so that takes care of my clock so I know what I'm doing. Now, the next thing is that we have in Linux what we call panels that in Windows they call taskbars. And I sometimes call the panel a taskbar because I used to call it that for years and years, but it's panels. Why? Just because I guess it's a different name. So we have a panel at the bottom, which is very traditional to what Windows had. And I think most Windows people know that you can put the taskbar in any of the 4 sides of your monitor that you want on your desktop. A lot of people would wonder, well, why in the world would you put them on the side? And what we've learned and taught people is that our monitors are now wider than they're tall. And so we have a lot of real estate at the edges that if you move your panel or taskbar to the sides, you have more up and down for photo editing or work that you do, and it's the sides. And that's a choice of everybody. Now, for me, I like mine at the top because I'm a top to bottom. So I like to get it up where my eyesight is better. So all you do is just like in Windows is get to the right spot, right click and say, aha, see, right click and there's my options and there's preferences. Nope, I hit the wrong one. There we go, properties. And so I'm on the panel properties. Before I was on a different part of the panel that, or the taskbar that showed the actual working programs. And so you can see that on orientation, I can put it anywhere I want, top, bottom, left, or right. And I put it at the top because when I'm sitting, my eyes are looking at the top. And you can adjust it. I'll do it just a little bit bigger. And I can choose to be background, but I'm just going to leave it the way it is, which is set for the system setting. All right, so now this works better for me because at the top is what I'm noticing at the beginning. Now for me, because I'm me, I like to have setting up a little bit different. So what I do is I set up additional panels. I used to do a top one and a bottom one. And then I could have programs at the top and at the bottom, what's running at the bottom panel. But now I'm a side person because again, remember I said we've got all this width. So I'm going to go back to right click, get my choices, and I'm going to add a panel. Nope, I hit the wrong thing. There, new panel, duh. And it starts at the bottom, but I'm going to right click and go to properties, and I'm going to have it on the right. Now, Judy's going to say to me, wait a second, you and I are little kid groups. We go top to bottom, left to right. And I did do that in the beginning. But what I found out for me that works best is to be on the right because I'm a right-handed mouse person. So it's more natural for me to have my extra panel on the right than crossing over to the left. So I changed a little bit. Now, what I like to do is I like to have my main shortcuts over here on the side to get to it. So I'm going to go up to here and I'm going to take my start button and I'm going to unlock it. And then I'm going to move it right to here. And I'm going to lock it right there. And then I'm going to leave this one. This is the one that we have in Windows 2 where I can quickly click and minimize all windows and see just the desktop. I'm going to leave that up there, but I'm going to move this one, unlock it. And I'm going to move it there. And then I'm going to lock it so it doesn't move. And this is a shortcut that they put on by default. I'm going to go ahead and move that. Whoops, move it. Nah, I didn't want to do that. And move it. And lock it. Now I'm going to be able to add more things later on. There's a shortcut right there, and I'm not going to use it. So I'm going to right click and say, I don't want that one. And I'm going to remove it. All right. So now the top part is going to show me my active programs, and then all of my shortcuts that I want are going to be on the side. Now, for those of you who are like a Mac kind of people or Windows 11, I can do this. I can go over here and say in my properties, we were here before, see how it says expand, and I can say don't expand. And now I have what looks like one of those things that when Apple has a little centered one on the side though. But of course I can move that where I want up and down instead of centered. But right now I'm going to get it back. And because I'm not done with it, I want it to expand so I can keep going. Now look what it did. I've got it locked, but it went to the bottom when it expanded. So I'm going to have to unlock that and move it back up there because I want them. Okay, there it's locked. Okay, so that takes care of the panels. Now, you can't in Windows have the 2 panels, but I could have up to 4 panels, and you can see that I can have them condensed and centered and all that sort of stuff. Now, the actual desktop, now that's get out of there, that's there. The actual desktop is customizable just like in Windows. And so one of the first things I do is, Judy knows that Linux by default has lots of nice looking, very good background. So I'm going to change the desktop, and again, right click and change my desktop. So it has to populate for the first time. So we'll give it a second. There we go. And so here are all the default backgrounds. And just like you had in Windows, I can zoom those, I can center them, I can stretch them, nothing different. Or I can pick a solid color just to be a background for that. So I'm going to go, let's see if I can find one of the ones that, yeah. And so now I got my new desktop, and it's a lot better than their little logo. At the same time, when I go to change desktop, I also have the option for a few other things that I want to point out and change. This is also found in your control panel or control center in Windows or Linux under your appearance. So it doesn't just give me the background. Fonts is one thing that I've got to change. I'm old, and a 10 sized font is way too small for me to be able to read and see all over the place. Especially as you get a bigger monitor, the pixels get smaller, so that 10 gets even smaller. So I will always just pick and say, make it a little bit bigger, and I will just try and see if 12 is enough. It's your preference. Some things I even make a 14. And you'll notice that there are what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things that use fonts: application, documents, desktop. So I can customize each individual one. They've got the you know, kind of like the regular standard font, which would be kind of a standard font in Windows. But if you can see, I'll do the desktop font and see if I make it bigger. Notice that the text on the icons went bigger. I don't really necessarily need that one bigger. Okay, so now I can kind of read things better. I can read the menus and stuff like that. The other thing is just an interesting thing that I can do in Mint is that I can choose to have icons showing. And right now, if I click on this preview of file, I've got an icon that goes with each word, but I can choose just to have words, or I can have icons. I like icons. Down at the bottom, when you have buttons in your windows, you can choose to have just the word, or you can choose to have icons. I like icons, so I'm going to do that. Theme is the kind of the color setup for your different things on your window, your bars across the top, the folders, and everything like that. Now, notice that the current theme suggests a different font. I hope we're still together here. Judy, tell me that we are.
Yes.
Okay, I just had a pop-up you saw that said no internet. I'm going, uh-oh. So if I click apply the font, it's going to change what I just changed. So I'm going to ignore that. But what you have is, if you have a certain kind of color that you like, well, you can do this. You can see all these brown, blues, and whatever. I'm going to pick the mint Y blue, and all this is now what you'll see is that it kind of changed to a gray top. Oh, that went to the orange. Why did it go to orange? Mint Y blue. There we go. I'm a bluish person, so it changed. And you have all those different choices. And if you're the type that like a dark theme, you've got all those same colors in a dark theme. So it's your choice how you do. I usually do a dark theme, but I'm not today because I have one dark theme that hides those icons right there.
John,
So, yeah.
Could you make the pointer cursor larger so we can really see it wonderfully?
I can absolutely do that, and watch how I do that. If I go into customize, I go to pointer and change it from the default that locks it. I go to, I'm going to pick add a wand. No, I'll do a black one with a white edge and ask you, how does that look?
A little bigger?
Sure. I'll just make it the biggest. There you go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that somebody's going to point out that you can do in Windows that you can't do here by default, I can't change the color. It's black or white. And, you know, my answer to that is that over the generations, we have just used a black or white mouse forever until Microsoft said, oh, we got to do something in Windows 10 to make people like Windows 10. We're going to give them the option to change the color of the mouse. So you can.
Could you put it over on your desktop?
Do it.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't turn all white, but the white border is more visible. Thank you.
Right. And that's the thing that we don't do by default. But I'm sure that the vast majority of computer users, their mouse is either black or white.
Yeah.
I've got mine on color on the other laptop, and I had it yellow, and after a while I'm going, you know, this is kind of yuck. So I changed it to blue and going, I don't know. All right, so now it's getting to the point where I can see the text, I can see my mouse. Oh, it changed the color again. Doggone it. Well, I'll just leave it brown. All right, so on to the next part. Next, we have the start menu. And I'm going to share why I like this Mate's start menu. A lot of people you'll read will say, if you're coming from Windows, you need to go to the Cinnamon version of the desktop because that's kind of like Windows-like. It's sort of like Windows-like. but it has icons on the side, like maybe the old Windows 7 had some shortcut icons. But I think this Mate menu is so easy to use that it's like a no-brainer. So there's the start menu, and it's the same as Windows. It's a start button, and everybody laughs because you go to start to shut down like we did all those years. But as you can see, when I point to it, it tells you that I'm using 20.2. This virtual machine has not updated to the newest one because it takes a little bit of time, and I wasn't going to do that because I want to be able to show you something with it. All right, so if I open up the menu, I could click the button. But just like in Windows, if you know the trick, there's a keyboard shortcut that if you guys hit the window key, and if I hit the super key, the menu pops up. I don't need to use the mouse. So if you aren't using the window key to open up your menu, save yourself some trouble of moving that mouse, or I can do it with that. And then I can click it to move it away. It's a toggle switch. So here's the Mate menu. And to me, this one is just the easiest thing to use. You can see that up at the top, we have places to go. We have our system links, software manager, package, control, terminal, lock screen. Just, we have a lock screen just like Windows did. We can log out or we can quit. One big difference between a lot of the Linux and Windows is that many of the start menus are grouped by categories. And the biggest thing I have worked with when teaching people, even in Windows, was I don't know what program I want to do. I want to do this, but here's a whole long list and I don't know which one. With lots of the Linux ones in categories, it's easy. If I'm going to do something in office work, I click on the office. If I'm going to do something in sound, video, I click that. If I'm doing graphics. And so it makes it a lot, to me, simpler. Then on the right side, whatever category you go to, what you have available shows up. Now, one thing that's really nice about what I have here is that not only do I have the name, but I have what it does. And a lot of people say, well, what does this do? Right there, it tells you each time what it does. pCloud is mad because I didn't log in. Okay, so we also then have a favorites. And so when I click on favorites, these are a list of icons. This would be like your Windows 10 and Windows 11. They're the ones that I've sort of pinned to the start menu. And I can have as many as I want. I can customize it and have 3 columns of icons, and I can put more on there because I think that if I added another 2 rows, so like 4 more, the start menu just gets a little bit taller. And I can have all of my favorites there. Then if I need something that's not one of my favorites, I can just click on all apps and go back to any of those. Now, the other thing that's nice is I've gotten started using the search bar instead of using the mouse and clicking here and there, because both in Windows and in Linux, if you start typing in the search bar, for example, let me go and get out of the category, and I just start typing FIR, it says, oh, we've got 2 applications that begin with FIR, your firewall and your Firefox. I can go to, let's see, I've got Thunderbird, THUN, no, that's an M. And it says, I don't know what you're typing because I'm typing crazy letters. THUN. And then it says, oh, we have a program for Thunderbird. So I can just start typing and then hit the enter key and start up the program without having to use my mouse. I make the computer work for me. The other thing that's really nice about the search bar is that it's set up that, I don't know what program I want, but I want to do browse. Oh, do you want to browse the files, or do you want to browse the internet, or do you want to browse your pictures? I need something with photos. Oh, okay. Do you want to scan something? Pictures. Okay, it says, I don't know what PIC is. P-I-C-T-U. Okay, pictures. I'm using a different keyboard I don't use. Okay, now, like in Windows, it'll give me ideas. Do you want to go search for something, or do you want to install stuff? I'll tell you, here's what'll fit with yours. So it's good to use the search because you can find things.
John?
Yeah.
Is that magnifying glass down there for search always down at the bottom right corner when you go into applications?
To start menu, it's always there when you go to the start menu.
When you're in your start menu, okay, that was the question.
Yeah, but that's additional. So if I want to go outside of my computer, that's for more advanced. I never use it because I just type and then hit enter. But if we go to customize, a lot of times I could put the search box at the top if I didn't want it at the bottom. And in the settings, you can say, I don't need the description anymore. Just give me the name of the program. Or I don't need the icons, just give me the names of the categories. So there's a lot of look at that. So if we do this, we can go, first off, get rid of it. And again, right click, there's my preferences. And I have a whole bunch of choices that I can do. This was a bad choice. Show the button or don't show the button. When you don't show the button, it's gone. And it took me forever to get it back. It turned out it was invisible. But I can go up here and talk about how big I want the things to be. I can swap, put the generic name and show favorite. Oh, this is the one. I usually switch it to show the favorites first and then go to the applications. But right by default, it shows all the applications and you have to click favorites. And you can see I can make 3 columns of that. So all these different options of how you want to set up your start menu to make it really work for you. I know that Judy and I have talked a lot, and she's the kind of person that she wants to be able to, customize just about anything that she can to get rid of stuff that she doesn't want, doesn't use, and have the stuff she does right there. And notice on here that if I didn't want the places, if I didn't want to see something, Windows does this too. Think about that it was sort of like the customizing your start menu. You can tell what to show on that not. So there's no difference. I can do all of that. Okay. Now with the start menu, you also have the choices when you find a program that you like. Then of course, if you right click, you have the choice that I can put it on the desktop. I don't do anything on my desktop. I've got to get rid of those icons real quick. I can add it to the panel because I want a shortcut for this one. So it's right there on my panel that I don't need to get to. You can even easily tell it, I want you to start that program up when I log in. I'm going to be using that one right away. And so lots of customizing that you can do for your applications on your start. Yeah.
Can you point out the search on your panel? Or like we have it on our taskbar on the left side. Do you have search up close and personal like we do?
If I wanted to, probably. So
okay.
I can go to my panel and say add, and here's a whole bunch of of stuff that you can add to the panel. Let's see if there's the search on here. I can add eyes. Fish on the eyes follow you around. Oh, wait a second. I got to put the force quit on the panel.
What fun.
Force quit is an excellent program that if you have one that doesn't work right, instead of having to try to go to Control-Alt-Delete and go to your sessions and stuff like that, delete, I can just click force and click on what I want and get off of it. Quickly through here, lock screen.
S.
Yeah, the reason I don't is that because you have to use your mouse and go up and click on that. If I hit my super key, there's my search right there.
Right, but there was a search for files and folders that you could add.
I didn't see it, but there might be.
I did.
Oh, did you? Good. Yeah.
Yes, I did.
It's just all the matter of it. In fact, I have on my computer, I have a program, the keyboard, that brings up a search, and it either will search for programs and stuff that makes it even better than having to use my mouse. You know, mouse is, you're working for the computer. All right, let's moving on. We need to talk about the file manager, and here's the first one that is the one that causes the problem. As I said, growing up in Microsoft, we were told that this is what you use. And we called it Windows Explorer, all those years. Then they switched it to File Explorer. In Linux, because there are open source, people can take a file manager and modify it, because I like it to do this. I like to work this way. We have a bunch of them. A lot of times we have them based on the desktop. Now, for example, the file manager I'm going to show you that comes with Mate is called Kaja. And okay, they have the reasons for it. And that's because if we called them all file manager, you wouldn't know which one was which. You wouldn't. One of the original ones that was for the GNOME desktop was called Nautilus. And that came from the guy who had that ship that went 20,000 leagues under the sea. Somebody said, well, that's not a bad file manager, but I can make a little bit better. And so they took the recipe for that, modified it a little bit to make it better for them. They called it Nemo. And Nemo is the guy who piloted the Nautilus. So it was kind of a play on that one. Nemo is the one for Cinnamon. So if you went with Mate Cinnamon, you would see the Nemo one. The KDE has one that is an excellent one. I really like it. It's called Dolphin. I guess because Dolphin, I don't know why we'd call it Dolphin, but they did. Ubuntu, who started calling their file manager Nautilus, decided because, well, we want to make it more modern name, they call it GNOME Files. So just plain files. Another one, there's one called Space FM, Space File Manager. I like one, and I have it on my computer. It's called PC Man FM, Personal Computer Manual File Manager, and it's usually found on one different kind of desktop. So, you know, we have all of these different ones, and so you just have to understand, generically, we all call them file managers, and that you just have to learn which one is the one your particular distro or operating system called. We even have one that is a super one. It's called Conqueror. And those that have been in the KDE and Orv has mentioned that one, it is a combination file manager and web browser all in one. The first time I used it, I've gone, whoa, this is too much. It's doing too much for me. And
all those names are what makes it so confusing. Yeah,
and that's because when we first had a Model T car, we all called it a car. But then when all these other companies started making cars, we had to have a different name for all of them because we had to be able to tell them apart. Microsoft kind of sheltered us by saying you do it my way and this way, and you're going to be oh so happy. There's a lot more too. I was looking it up. You won't like me to say it, but I did a web search and found one review of 20 of the best file managers. A different one had 30 and then another one had 40, because there's also file managers that work out of the terminal, and that's the last time I'm going to probably talk about that word. So anyway, that's the whole thing, is that it's variations, and it has to have a name so you can separate it from the others. So of course, just like in Windows, there's my little file folder, and I open it up and it brings up my file manager. And file managers are going to look very similar to what you have in Windows. Not perfect, but similar. And what you can see on the side, of course, there's menus at the top like we have, but on the side, this is your navigation bar. And when I teach computers, even for Windows, I teach that this is our big map. And when we click on it, it opens up like a regular map does. And so this is where we see the whole route that we're going, that we have available. We can go here, 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 all over the place. On the right side of the panel, I teach that this is the triptych. But you have to have somebody that had AAA so that they knew what triptychs, and only shows you the section you're on right now. And that's why when we click on, you know, something on the left, then all we see is what's in that section. Now in Windows, they make it difficult. You can expand the documents folder if there's subfolders, if you can see the little arrow there. All right, so there's really no difference here. It has all the files. If we go back, now here, my user for this virtual machine is called VBox, VirtualBox. And so whatever your username is, that's what would show here. Some distros just call it your home, where your folders are. But you'll see that it has the exact same folders that you see in Windows. I have my documents, pictures, music, videos. I have a public one just like in there, and I have my desktop, but I'm not supposed to have anything on my desktop. And you can create things. If I do a right click, remember folks, right click's your friend, and I can create a new folder. So I can have, like, for example, I always have a folder called APCUG.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can create folders and then store all my APCUG stuff there. A lot of times people in their picture folders, they have scanned things. I don't like to have to go into scan or pictures to find my scanned ones. So I have a folder called scanned. And I usually, a lot of times, instead of having to go into documents to find all my PDFs, I might have a folder called PDFs. It's all according to what works for you.
Could you create another folder, please?
Which way? Menu way or mouse way?
Mouse way.
Mouse way, right click, just like in Windows, and right there it says create a folder.
Now, when you were doing your customization, one of those, could you have made all the VBox, desktop file system, APCUG, music, blah, 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 larger?
That's what comes next.
Sorry.
At the top, that's fine. At the top, you've got your size.
I have a folder question before you leave here.
Okay, we'll be right. In Microsoft, I know we go up the top and we have extra large, large, medium, small. Well, you don't go that way. You just make it the size you want. You also have the choice that, do you want to see it in icon view, which is this, or do you want to see it in a list view? And this again is all preference. I used to be an icon view, but now I'm more of a list because I want to know the information that goes with that. And Windows has that too. And
could I have icons 125?
Do icons 100? I think you have to go with their choices.
Oh, okay.
But
so mine's all set at 125.
Now wait a second. you've got your desktop set at 125, don't you?
Everything.
Right. That's your whole computer, because in Windows you can go 100, 125, 150, and that's for your whole display, and that can be done. These are just for the individual icons, and you have to go with kind of like the numbers they give. Now, this is just on the fly. If I go to Edit and Preferences, did I slip? There we go. You can come in here and set up how you want all of your folders to, folders to be. And so for me, I would go here and say, I want them to be in list. I want them to be alphabetical. I want folders before files. I dislike having everything mixed together alphabetically. So I want my folders first and then my files. I don't want to see the hidden ones because I'm not supposed to be in those hidden ones. And it doesn't matter, I can see where backup flies. But let's see, if we go to the icon view, yeah, we got some standard sizes. And I think that's just because over time, people have said, I either like them this, small, medium, large. All right, and so, that's how you can customize. You want to do your single click, double click. What do you want to see besides the name? So there's a lot of customizing that you can do in the Windows, but also in here. So now, question then, you had one more?
Yes, if you have two subfolders below APCUG, and you had a 1 and a 2, and if you had a document in subfolder 2 and you wanted to move it to 1, how do you do that?
Easy. 1, we'll just do it so easy, and folder 2. Now, one of the things that I can do in Linux, and this is Bill said, yep, I can do this too, is that I can create an empty file. So I'm going to call that a file. A few.
Works for
don't,
us.
Don't use a keyboard to down. All right, so that's supposed to be a number 1. I have a number of different ways. The traditional way is I go to folder 2, right click, and I can cut it out, go to folder 1, right click, and paste it.
Same way. Thank you. And on our
but I got to show you one of the things that's kind of neat that I don't think Windows has set up yet is I can go to View, and if the distro desktop has extra pane, now I have actually 2 file managers kind of running the same way. So on this side, I can go to number 2 because we found out that this file should be in 2, and I can do a right click and say just copy it to the other pane, or I can drag
and drop.
Makes it really neat with working on the files that way. Okay. Did you have another one?
No, yes, and this was from a few minutes ago. If you probably said, I didn't hear, but what's your super key?
It's that key that has that 4 little squares that make it look like a, I hate to say it, window.
I'll say it for you. It's our Windows key.
Yep. Super key is the Windows key. And if I could find me a little Superman, I'd put it on there, or if I find that, but that's what it is. Apple has their Apple key. So we all 3 have something. It's a super key, Apple key. It's the key that does super different changes.
And Apple's called the command key.
Command key. I can remember back in the old, at school, the Apple IIe's had an open Apple, close Apple. Okay. Now, this is for Judy because she says that. If I go to here, in the file system is really what you guys call Windows in the C drive. And that really kind of, is confusing, but file system is the file system. So this is what you see normally on your C drive. We just don't call it Windows, we call it file system. And in the file system in Windows, you've got a folder called users. And inside the users are the people who are set up on your computer. Most of the time it's just you, but it depends on your situation at your home, whether you have you and kids or you and grandkids, you and a spouse, whatever, but that's found under users. In Linux, it's called home. And inside a home will be the users, because this is where you live. You live in your home. All your files are in your home. In Windows, all your files are in users. What? What do you mean? Why are my files in users? I want my files in me. Well, so we just do a plain name. So that's the same there. It's, you know, computer file system, home instead of users. And then you have your specific user on that. Okay, I think that's it for here. So, you know, customize it, but that's where you do all your work. And I can do everything I used to do. As Judy had me show you, I can cut, paste, copy, paste, create files, create folders, drag things around. Let me see.
Another question.
Yeah.
What is the USR folder?
Users. In the structure for Windows, when you have multiple users, there are things that you want other people that all use. And there are things that are in your file. So we, you know, Linux can go as deep as, and that's beyond what beginners would worry about, is that I can install a program that only I can use, nobody else could use. Or I could, there's a way to install it so that everybody can use it. So things in user folder is things that are shared among all the users. And just to show again, just a quick, that the bin, that's binary. That's what Linux uses instead of the executable file that Windows uses. So we have binary files, which is really the same thing. It's zeros and ones, binary system. But that's what it is. So users is the folder that you put things for.
Okay, question,
everybody to use.
Question for where you are. Hold on, go up here. Does Linux have an administrator as well?
Oh, good. The way Linux works, Windows is kind of, I mean, Microsoft's kind of followed this suit. When you set up the very first user on a computer in Linux, that first user has to be admin. Otherwise, he couldn't do anything to set up the computer or add users or anything. Second person gets logged in with a normal user, or can be custom user with features. But the admin, I'm admin as VBox. I log in, but on my daily activities, I am not an admin. When something requires me to be an admin, it pops up and says, what's the password to authorize this action taking place? In Windows, you have two distinct users, an admin user and an everyday user. When you are in admin, you have access to everything all the time with no security by asking, are you, permission. You're granted permission. Right now, I can't do anything that would affect other users, the computer, without first having to authorize it. So that makes the Linux user very secure that I'm not going to really do anything that's going to mess things up. That's why when we talk about security, when a virus type tries to get in with you as a Windows admin, which unlocks everything and gives open permission, a virus can easily spread around because it doesn't need any permission to do it. In Linux, if that type of thing happened, they couldn't go anywhere and do anything without giving the proper permission. So yes, we have it. but I don't run as admin until I need to. And then it says, hey, what's the password? You'll see that happen, I think, in something we do a little bit later.
Well, in some cases, that's why in Windows we have that user control pop up when there's a change made to a file. And most people will just go and say, okay, that's fine. But usually when there's a change going to occur within Windows, you'll get that user control box come up.
Right. That's a good security because it's coming up. So Microsoft, has now said that after the first initial user has been created, they recommend everybody else be a standard user. And then if the standard user needs to do something with permission, they just have to have a password for it, and you can either give it to them or not. So it's secure. So yes, we do have administrators, and we have everything in between. We have everything in between from a full administrator all the way down to a guest user.
And someone would like to see that set up.
All right, we can come to that.
Okay.
Because that's when you get the control panel. Let's move on, because another thing that people want is to know about software. And in Linux, we have always had a software store. Microsoft has a software store now, but I don't remember back in the Windows 98, 95 days that we had a Microsoft store. We just used what they gave us. Or you were brave to sneak out on the internet on a dark night and try to install something that you heard somebody say. So Microsoft now has it, because what Microsoft wants to do and Apple wants to do and Google wants to do, they want to control the software that goes in the computer. Linux has been doing that for a long time. So we have a software manager. So if I go to SuperKey, there it is right there, software manager. And it's very, okay, this is the one that takes a minute to generate the cache to check for updates. This is the one that looks cute. And I think Microsoft Store kind of is based on the Linux software managers or software centers or software stores. Doesn't really matter what you call it, it's still just software. And when we get to there, I'll show you right here at the top, there's a search box, which is very, very important. I'll show you that. And then, of course, going, oh, Judy, it's past 12:30 and I still don't have it.
Okay.
But the hotspot's holding through. But since there's lots of software, it takes a while to do this the first time and getting up. What you're gonna see is a graphical display store, and you're gonna have a editor's pick, and then you're gonna have, again, categories. And we're gonna have categories that'll show different, I think there's like a dozen different categories, and then what all software you have available. And that's another thing, is that because of open source software and all the different versions, you get quite a bit. There we go. Quite a bit of choices. I'll make this full screen. And so you can see up at the top, they're advertising a program called Blender that everybody can have. It's cross-platform for 3-dimensional drawings. And then here are today's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 editors picks for software. And then down at the bottom, you can see the different categories that you can pick from. Now, I like to do, because I'm getting used to doing searches. And in the search box, what's really nice is you can search for a particular program, Firefox. And I apologize, because of virtual machines, it takes long. And there it brings up all the things I have to do with Firefox. But what's really nice is that instead, I want something different. You know, Firefox is what came with the computer.
Good to know.
Web browser. And here are all of my options for web browsers. And see, again, in the early days of training by Microsoft, all we ever knew was Internet Explorer. And then all of a sudden we heard about Netscape and Microsoft. Oh, no. But anyway, so there are lots of choices because people say, I can make a better model. And so here are all the ones that, oops, wrong mouse, that you can see I have options. Now, what's nice about this one, and I think Windows 2, they're ranked, if you can, what you want to believe on that. And if we would pick one, it'll give you information about it, give you kind of an idea. And so I want to have a second browser. I tell everybody, you got to have 2 browsers on your computer, because you call me and tell me your internet doesn't work. I'll say, how do you know? Because it could be your browser's not working. So I'm going to click and say, I want to install.
John, you'd be surprised the number of Windows users that do not use the Microsoft Store.
Now, notice here, I want to install Chromium. And my computer says, you got to authorize this. So I have to use my password. And now it authenticates the fact that, okay, that password user, because if anybody knew my password, they could install stuff. And so it gives you the information about the program and some reviews.
Is your password manager filling that in for you?
No, password managers can't do it for you unless I, that's the one, that's the password, because usually the password manager works with your browser.
Okay.
Or you
I have two web questions.
Yeah.
What is Firefox Flat Hub?
That comes good. That's right here. Next one, next line down. So anyway, I wanted to show you that because a lot of people say, I don't know what to order or what to ask for.
We're still seeing Chromium.
Yeah, I know, because I'm going to go back up to the search box. And if I go back, for example, Judy wants to know what I use for photos or for taking or for looking at pictures.
I have another question. Do you use the Brave browser?
I do, because it's secure.
Okay.
Image viewer. So I want to know what's out there to view images. And I will get a whole list of that. So I don't have to know the exact name. And here's the ranking, top to bottom. The best image viewer by reviews and stuff is GThumb. And that's, again, my second little piece of paper with names, images, image viewer. In Microsoft, it was pictures in the old days, and now it's photos. Well, we've got variations. And so, for example, you've got one that's on these lists of everything. Nomax, that came from somebody's design. The GNOME people had Eye of GNOME. The Mate people had Eye of Mate. You saw GThumb. An excellent one is this GwenView. That's a KDE program. Digicam is both a image viewer and a photo organizer. I would use it, except the problem using Digicam, which is a KDE desktop environment, I would have to install a lot of KDE files and stuff into my Mate. So my Mate would no longer be a Mate desktop. It would be a KDE Mate, and I don't want to add up all those extra ones on there. Another program that's great is called Shotwell, and it's kind of an image viewer and a photo manager. So, we've got them. And
John,
yes, choices. Yep.
How do you know which one that will go with what you're putting together?
My store only tells me which ones will let me. Any of these on this list I can do.
But you said with one, you'd have to turn it into sort of a KDE machine instead
Right.
of, what
Yeah,
makes, which one lets you stay pure?
Anything that's set up for a deb, usually what it should say, let me see if Squinty does, this package is part of the KDE graphics
Okay.
mode. And so that would be telling me that a lot. Same thing with Dolphin. I like the Dolphin browser, but if I go to Dolphin, it'll say it's a KDE and will require the installation of a lot of KDE libraries and stuff like that. So, and what I do is I use my trusty internet and say, what's the best image viewer for Debian? Because that's what my family is. All right, so you wanted
another question?
Yeah, well,
Hold on.
Nope, you already gave me a question.
I got another one.
Well, do you want me to do the flat pack one or not?
Oh, okay, go.
Yeah, okay. Cal did an excellent presentation on this last time. It is a kind of software that now comes with everything. Microsoft, we installed programs, and you know that we always hear about these DLL files. And what that means is if a program needs a set of files, it installs it. Program number 2, when it installs, it says, hey, that part's already here. We don't need to install it. We'll just use that one. Well, when you go to this, remove things, if you remove program 1 and it takes all the files that it had away, then all of a sudden program 2 goes, I can't run because I'm missing stuff. Linux had the same thing. So they now have these what's called containers, and go back and watch that one. So everything that you need comes at once, doesn't have any dependencies or requirements. Flatpak is the one that Mate or Mint uses. There's another one called Snaps, and that's the one that Ubuntu started out. And then there's a third one called App Images. And all these are self-contained. So when you install them, you really aren't installing, you're just putting the whole package on your computer and running it from like in. Back in the old days, we used to get, we could run programs off of a thumb drive. It didn't even have to be on our computer. So it's kind of like the same thing. So Flatpak, Snaps, App Images. Flatpaks is what Mint likes to use. They don't like what Snaps, so that you have to go through hoops to get them. And so when you go through your programs, it'll tell you whether it's a Flatpak or whatever. Okay, next one.
Can you sort the far right columns so you get the ones that are the highest number, like one's 4.6, or if there's a 5.0?
Search packages, summaries. I guess I've never really worried about it because
I guess that's a question for Dave Melton to look up for us.
No, because there's no option for it.
Oh, so the answer is no. The answer is no, Lloyd.
Yeah, and I guess it's because these are reviews. How many reviews do you really believe?
Well, there is that.
when you go on Amazon and you have all these people rate these things, you go to a hotel, people rate them. We know that there are people who rate them bad because of the competition. So I usually go to the web and I go to a source like, different websites that we know we can trust and say, okay, what do you say is the best one for it? And then I come back here and get it.
Can you go to back to the Firefox list of things that drop down?
If I get my keyboard.
What's the flat hub?
That's the flat pack that's the version of Firefox that comes all by itself. That's flat pack. It's
there you go.
Flat packs come from the flat hub, just like a regular hub. And I think my Ubuntu has a Snap store or something maybe. So that's just a location that all of the Flatpak files come from FlatHub. They're the distributor. That's like the warehouse. Okay. I think that's it. But the other thing that it'll take time because we got other stuff we want to do is that if we go in, we have a control center. Microsoft called it a control panel. And all of a sudden they now have decided they got to call it settings. So, you ask Microsoft, why did you change the name? Okay, so they changed the name. So in a control center, some distros of Linux have limited controls that you can do like Microsoft, and some have an abundance. Mate is kind of like in the middle. And so these are all the different control panel things that you're used to doing that we have in here. And when you look at this list, I'll magnify it so you see them all. You can see pretty much all the stuff that you've done in others plus more, because Microsoft said, oh, we're only going to let you make changes to this. But there's the appearance, and that's going to be the same one that we saw earlier. It's just that we got to it by saying, I want to do backgrounds first. But everything's here. Now, somebody said they wanted to see about the users. That comes under administrative. So just to show you how crazy it gets. Okay, there's the VBox. If I want to add a new user, oops, aha, I can't add a new user without password. Okay, now I can. So we're going to call this new user Judy. And so do that. And okay, so now you got to do a password. Now here we can let them generate a password, or I could use my password manager to create one. We're going to go really hard for Judy. She likes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See if it hassles me. And then okay. All right, it'll let me. Now, see, under Judy, she's a custom account. So when I go to advanced change, I have the choice of she can be an administrator, a custom user, or just a general desktop user. Can perform common tasks. This is like the standard user of a Windows, can't install software or change settings affecting all users. And that's the same. So in Microsoft, that would be standard user, and in Linux, it would be desktop user. And remember that Microsoft changed the name. Back in XP days, you were either administrator or limited. And people did not like to be restricted to be limited. So they said, I'm not going to be a limited one. I'm going to be administrator. So everybody was running around as an administrator, which caused a lot of problems back then. Now we have standard user. Microsoft or Linux says, let's just call it, you're a desktop user. All right, so now if I go back to advanced settings and I go under privileges, I can make this a little bit, no, I can't make that window. These are all the privileges that she could have that she doesn't have. And so I could give her permission to configure printers, not just use them, but configure them. General users don't get to do that because that would mess up everybody. I laugh at this one. We still have tape drives, floppy drives. You have to have permission to use those. So that's how you can, say if you're an admin user, you get most of these. If you're a general user, you don't have any of those, and we can change those. So that's that. All right. So otherwise, they make it nice and easy that they put these in categories that you can find with the icons, and it does everything that you need to do to set up and customize screensavers. Go to your disks, power management. System reports. I'm going to come to that one, but I'll just jump ahead because that's the next thing on everyday guy. This is nice because you go to system reports and it's going to tell you about your computer.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
This is Dave. I was wondering if you could now show the home folder with the Judy person, the Judy user added to the home folder.
Good question. Notice right here, it tells me that there is a new version of Mint available, Una, and I don't have to go to it. If everything is working fine, I can check to find out what does it bring me. And if I see that it doesn't bring me anything, I don't do it. Just like in Windows, if you don't want, when H1 comes out in a couple of months, if you don't want that stuff, you don't have to. But Microsoft says in 12 months after that, you got to go because we don't support a H1 or H2 more than 18 months. All right, and so I'll come back to this because just to do quick, but I can upgrade or just ignore it. I'll just kind of leave it go. Here is your detailed system information about this computer, everything you wanted to know about it, except it's a virtual machine, not my real one. And then have I had any crash reports? Yep, I had a couple crash reports with that applet for the clock when I kept changing that. All right, so Dave says.
And I have a question about this screen.
Okay.
Does the backup tool produce an image backup with the capability to extract individual files?
We will talk about that with the everyday person.
Thank you, everyday.
Yep. He said, let's go to the files and let's go to the file system and home. And there's Judy.
Thank you.
And if I go into Judy.
There's nothing there.
And you know why? You have not logged in. So until you log in the first time, the computer can't generate what every user is supposed to have. Same thing for Windows. If you create a new user, they have to log in first before all their folders are generated. And when she logs in and then she comes back, everything except for the APCUG will be there because those are all the standard default folders for computers. Not just Linux, it's Windows. Those are the same ones for them. All right. Anything else about the customizing and stuff?
That's my last question. Except for general ones for later.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump out of this, but it's not going to go anywhere. So if anybody wants me to customize more, and so I use Control F to get out, and then I'm back here. Now, this is one thing too, is that they'll allow me to put a different background. Remember when we went to the first one, or this was my background because it's winter in Ohio and stuff. We had snow. All right, so what I want to do now is to run through, and I told Judy that I'm not going to teach you how to use programs that I'm going to show. I'm talking to you about the process of an everyday computer user. And I'm going to do recorded. Okay. Okay. Somebody's mic is on.
I know. Second.
Are we ready? Okay. Nope, somebody's echoing back. And
it appears as though all microphones are on.
Somebody's got two devices connected to the meeting.
I do, but I have my other guy turned off. Let me look real quick. Yeah, whoever it was just turned off. Oh, somehow Don Groovy, my guy. Okay. All right. So let me switch back to what I'm sharing. I was looking at the participants. All right. So you see my snow. All right. First thing, as an everyday thing, I want to check my computer and make my systems and make sure everything is good. So, you know, I just went through and showed you by that I went to my system, SYSTEM. Boy, I don't like this keyboard. And so I went to my system. Oops, wrong key, mouse again. I went to my system reports, just like I showed you. And this is on my real computer now. So this one will not tell me that I have a update because I've already done the upgrade. This is running the 20.3 UNA. And there's my information. So it'll tell me everything about it. I've got a Lenovo laptop and I can check for crash reports. And I had a few. pCloud is mad because I didn't log in. So it can't connect to the internet. So it keeps telling me there's no internet. And my house still has no internet. It's way past 12:30. All right. So the other thing is I want to check my system to see how it's going. SYSTEM. Oops, hate this keyboard. And I, just like in Windows, I've got a system monitor, and this will look very similar when it pops up. And these are all the processes I'm using. Here's my resources. This comes, you know, this is the same thing when you go to Control-Delete and go to your task manager. Well, this is more than task manager, but it's the same thing. But you call it task manager. We call it system monitor because it's monitoring my system, not just my task. So you can see, I can check to see that my CPU is not running very hard at all. I'm using some hard memory because I'm running a virtual machine, and my internet's not doing too bad for being on a hotspot. I can also tell I'm on my new lap. I am doing 20.3. I'm using the Mate desktop. I'm using the 5.4094 version of the Linux kernel, which is the whole engine of everything. I've got almost 8 gigs of RAM. I've got a i5, so blah, blah, blah. So this is the important part. Now, if we go to processes, just like you did in Windows, if I had something that was just, using up everything or causing a problem, I'm not going to do it, but I could end the process. And that's what you do. If you got something that won't close down and stuff, you come here, find it, and say, stop. All right. I also want to make sure I've cleaned things up. So what I use is a program called Bleach Bit. And because I'm using it at the administrative top level of the computer, not just at my home. See, I can clean my home or I can clean the whole computer. Well, we don't mind if everybody cleans up their home, but we don't want everybody cleaning up your house. So this is required it. So this is mine. And hopefully that somebody that Judy said had a question from a group, and there's my preferences. I'll just leave it. So we come in here and just like with CCleaner, you can come through here and say, I want to clean up all of these different kinds of files. And what it does is once you check anything for, let me just see on my system, I'll say, okay, because it's adding things. All right, so it's going to check my system, and this is going to tell me what all it's going to check. I can do a preview, and then before, ooh, look what it's, a lot of junk it needs to clean up. So just like with CCleaner, You know, I use this to come through and clean up. Forget that. I also have another program that I can use, STAC. I thought I had Stacer on here. Stacer is another program that does a really good job of cleaning, cross-platform program. So I check and make sure my stuff is all cleaned up. Oh, I need to check for updates. Oh, up at the top, just like with Windows, it says you've got updates. And notice I can choose to do them or not do them. I can't remember for sure, but I'm thinking Windows, it's there saying, if we want you to update, you have to update. And so you come in here and choose what you wanted. If you, maybe you heard that this program is causing some problems, so we said, well, we'll wait on that. So I can check for updates. I'm not going to do it now because the kernel takes a little bit of time because it's updating the engine. What else? Oh, yes. I want to make sure that my backing up system is working right. And I have one that's called TIM, time shift. This would requires supervisor because, you know, it's backing up. So time shift is a program that is very similar to System Restore in Windows. This is not backing up my files. This is backing up my operating system stuff. So that if all of a sudden something goes crazy, I can pick any of these backups and restore my system back to that, just like, you know, just like we did with System Restore. Only this is nicer because I can set it up. You can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 daily backups that run. And then I have 3 weekly backups that run, or 4, and then I have a monthly one. So I can bring back my system. And I've had to do this. We did that back in Windows, or we hope to, and then we go find out that Microsoft says there's no restore points. So I've got that. So I've got 10 different ones I can go back. Now, right now, since I've got 3 days of UNA, if UNA wasn't working right, I would go back to my most recent UMA that I knew was working and restore it to that and get back. Now, the other question was, in Linux, and well, I got to say in Windows, I teach, or in computers, let me know, in computers, I teach that you need to have a separation between your operating system and your files, either by separate partitions or separate hard drives. That way, if your operating system goes screwy, you can reinstall your operating system and your files are sitting there just fine. So I have a program for backups. There's my backup tool. This came with my computer. And there's my personal data. And so I can back up my files and settings that are all in my home directory. And then if something goes bad, pull them back. One neat thing I can do is I can make a list of all the software that I've installed. And so if my operating system goes crunch and I reinstall it, all my software isn't there because it wasn't there in the beginning. I can restore all my software and automatically just say, okay, add those all back in for me. So if I do a backup now, it's going to want to know where to go to backup. So you got to set that up and then I can back up. Now, what that question was for the person was they wanted to be able to do a different kind of backup. They're talking about an image backup where you back up the whole computer, and there's programs for that. In Linux, we use a program called Clonezilla, and you can use it in Windows too, and it will back up all the files. My thing is, if you back up your personal files, which is a must, it doesn't really matter. You know, if I have to reinstall my operating system in Linux, I can probably have it up and running in 10 minutes or so. And if my operating system is separate from my data, then I don't even have to worry about it. But I do have a backup of that. So that program does it. If you wanted a different program, there's a number of programs. You could go to your software store and say backup programs, and they would give you a list of different programs that you could use to back up. Some people use a backup program that backs up their files incrementally, which means that on Monday you back up it all, Tuesday just the new files, Wednesday just the new files. I just use, full backup. All right, let's move on. We've got okay, I'm ready for my daily routine. So I'm going to do my daily routine is I'm going to do my email. So I have a shortcut to get my APCUG up. I always use keyboard shortcuts because it makes things faster. And so I've got a link to email. I'm going to go to, let's go to my Roadrunner one, my Gmail one. And so all of you that have a Gmail account in your Microsoft, it's still going to be here when you get to your Linux, because what am I doing? I'm just using the browser to go out on the internet, and there we go. And Spectrum says I got some voicemails for people who I don't answer. And there was my link today from the Zoom. So today all I did was click that link, just like a Windows person, no different. And it opened up Zoom and off we go. So, nothing there. Just I go to my link. Now, if I had a calendar, which I do, and well, it's just going to show today, and today, interesting, that's not populating my Gmail calendar because I have a Gmail calendar. Oh, there we go. There's tomorrow. Tomorrow I got to keep the boys in the morning because it's late start for Newark, and so they come to my house and I take them in 2 hours to school late. And today should have, but because it's past, it erased the Wednesday workshop. All right, so no big deal. I'm just using them a browser. Go there. I can use my browser if I wanted to. Lock out of here. And those of you who are Microsoft people, you can switch to Linux. And now, Judy, here I can do it with my password manager, John's Outlook. And so I'm using password manager. Stay signed in? No, I don't like stay signed in. And so if you're a Windows user, okay, you can continue using it. There's my Outlook one, and I have it because of being able to work with people who have Outlook and have Outlook problems. And is there a link to the calendar? Because I have a, not now, I'm not going to link you together. Oh yeah, here we go to here. And calendar. So you can migrate and keep your Outlook stuff. There's my Wednesday workshops. We got one coming up next week too. All right, what else do I do? Oh, if I can check the news, I could do this. I could, oh, there it was. I could have gone to, Microsoft. I was going to do it by this way. So you can go to your live and get your news from Microsoft Network, or I could go to Google News. Did I type that wrong? Hey, I got internet back.
Very good.
Yeah, but I can go to Google news. They don't like me to say it that way. I guess it's news.google.com. All right. So, and as you can see there, I can just pull up and I can go do my searching. I can do whatever choice. Judy knows that my choice for searching is DuckDuckGo. So I go to that place. Let's move on. Okay, today I got to write a letter. And so I've got a shortcut for Libreoffice, which comes with my Linux. It's also what I would have been using on Windows for all my past years. And so nothing different than what anybody else is doing. I just pull up, and this is the home page for LibreOffice, and I'm going to write something today. And so I write something, my favorites time, and then I'm going to go save it. So when I go to File and I go to, save, it's going to say where? Well, by default, it knows to go to my home. And this one, it says, John's home into his documents folder. It's automatic. And then I could save it, change the name, and that. And then if I wanted to open up a file, I could go to File, Open, and I go to my documents. And oh, there I have an untitled one, but that's going to be locked because I didn't close it out.
Could you show calc, please?
Sure. Not that I do that much with spreadsheets, but I create.
That's a question.
Yeah.
So I told him it was calc equals Excel.
But under new, it says new spreadsheet, and it happens to be called calc because you're calculating. And so I can do create that. I do very basic spreadsheets. Use to create my family budget. I've got all my different categories and put in all the bills I pay and total up that. One of the things that Judy liked me that I showed her is that you can go in. This is the traditional LibreOffice for the longest time kept the traditional drop-down menus there because people didn't like the ribbons. Now that people are getting ready to the ribbons, we can now, they say, okay, user interface. And we go to, I think it's tabbed. And now we have the ribbon effect that Microsoft started. Mm-hmm. So if you are a person who was a Word person that moves over to LibreOffice, you've got the tabbed, which is their name for the ribbon, because they can't use ribbon because Microsoft named it that, but we have the same thing just available that way. So there's yours. So that's the calc, but for me, the thing I do is I use the presentation program, which is the equivalent of PowerPoint. I'm going to pick the top. Okay, let's do that one. And so this is the one that Judy is learning little by little that, okay, that's how you do it here. Because for her, she said it doesn't work the way she used to work for PowerPoint, and that's fine. It's not PowerPoint, it's not supposed to be, but it does all the same things. But maybe since it's been so long since I've used the other, but it has all the same tools and features, just maybe kind of in a little different location. All right, so I've taken care of that, and again, it knows automatically where to put it.
Comment.
Yep.
A couple of my members years ago wanted to know about Writer, so I downloaded it, didn't look at it, and I was able to use it with absolutely no problem at all. There was only one thing I couldn't find. And my one of my daughter's father-in-law really doesn't know that much about computers, but upgraded him to 10 a couple of years ago, and he didn't want to pay for the Office program. So I downloaded LibreOffice, and we call Calc Excel, writer, you know, and as far as he's concerned, that's exactly what he's using because he knew how to use Excel. And I put the ribbon feature on and he's a happy camper. And whenever anybody goes down there, I said, remember, we call calc Excel.
Yeah.
And it works just fine.
We had a Linux person who did that with a relative, got him a new computer and just said, here's the computer. It's a new version, a new look for Windows. And they started using it and it was weeks before they told them, oh, well, you're not using Windows, you're really using Linux. All right, one of the things is I got a newsletter. Everybody will be getting their reports from APCUG soon. And so if I'm going to do want to read a PDF. Now, one of the things that computers do is that if you don't know the program you want, there are default set up. So all you have to do is tell your computer, open up this file. It knows what to open it with. So let me go to my file. I use a shortcut to get to it. And let's see if APCUG, and here's my old Q report. So, you know, it's a PDF and all I'm going to do is double click. You did see at first it had the one logo for what's that company, Adobe, but let's see, there's our winter one from last winter. So I double click it and I don't even tell it what to open. It knows what to open it with because I have a PDF document viewer and it happens to be called XReader, because what Mint has done is they have modified the programs and improved them and they're all X reader, X this, X that, just because they wanted to call it that. But this is the PDF reader. Now, I can read it. Please read yours that comes out pretty soon. If I don't like this one for some reason, I want more features, I can go to the store and say PDF reader, and I will get a couple programs that I usually use that might have more features. And most web browsers will now read PDFs. Oh, one thing, let's see, is good because we have to make notes. If I want to make me a note, and see, I've used this for so long. Do not like this keyboard.
Is that the one that came with the new computer?
What? No.
Oh,
This
that's
is-
right. That's just a laptop. Never mind.
Well, this is the one I had to plug into the laptop so I could have a big keyboard. All right, and so I can make sticky notes. And
I'm sorry.
yeah, I know. And so I can have them stuck on my computer if I wanted sticky notes. And they're also, you know, up there. It can go invisible if it's in my way, and I can bring them back. But you know, I've got sticky notes that I can do for that. Okay, quickly on the tech support, I told Judy I was going to do this one. We have told people that we help with, if you have a problem, you need to be able to show us exactly what the problem is. So we are real big supporters of taking a picture of the problem. And so I've got a screenshot program. That's my trash. So I go to SCRE, take screenshot.
Okay, so your super key plus print screen won't do it.
Super print screen.
Did it blink?
I think I have it on a 4-second delay.
Because if it blinks, you'll find it in your screenshot folder.
I think I just have to hit print screen. Yeah, I don't have to use the super key. So I just hit the print screen, and that's the old default.
Right, but you know, we would have to put, you know, paste that someplace with print screen. Windows key plus print screen, it just goes right in our print screen folder for us to do something with it later. And then life goes on for us.
Right. This goes to my desktop.
Okay, got it.
But if I do the print screen program, which I closed out, I just, we can do the whole window, the current window, or grab a selection. Now, this one does a good job, but it doesn't do the job of the one that I installed, because I need to be able to edit my screenshots. So I get my K-snip.
Okay.
And when I do my K-snip, it takes the screenshot. For this one's the 4-second delay, because I have to get my mouse out of the way or pop a menu down. And I'll just do a rectangular area. Nope, I gotta wait 4 seconds.
That's like my beloved snipping tool.
Absolutely. But the difference for me here is that I have all of these editing tools, and I did that with all the guides that I made for our classes that we taught, that I can take through and do this. So
That
the
is
one
now,
that
is now Snip and Sketch.
Yep.
It's
Now
been around
changed it.
for a while. I prefer just the snipping tool.
Yeah, but they thought it was better. So, we have those things that we can take them. The default one works great because you just hit the print screen and then save it. If I want to do text support for people, Judy knows that we do the AnyDesk. So I've got AnyDesk right here that I can connect with. I can connect with my Zoom laptop. AnyDesk or TeamViewer or DW service, all of those, and they're cross-platform. So if you're used to using it in Windows, you can do it in Linux. And obviously, you know that I'm using Linux and I'm on Zoom or Jitsi, so we do that. I think we covered the files. You can use the file manager, locate them, rename them, create folders, move files. I think we did all that, so I can skip that. Need to do multimedia for fun. Okay, photos. I put some dummy photos on here. So I go to my file system and I go to my pictures. And
can you change the view to see the pictures?
Yep. Icon view. And you know what that is? It took every shot of our
right
thing there, so I gotta get past all those things. It was a movie, but it separated into every single slide.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "You silly thing! I don't want those." Oh, I had those on the other one. Let me go back. Never mind. Let me go back. So if we go to here and I just double click, and it knows to open up the program that looks at videos. This was our old computer building in the old days. This is where we had our repair and our Linux met out here, and this used to be a bar of things. If I go to help, it'll tell me that this program is called X Viewer. Like I said, it's all modified, but they're all based on an original somebody's photo imaging program that they said we can make a little bit better. Okay, so if this one isn't good enough for me, I can go out and go to my software center and say, I want a better photo view in an image viewer, and install it. I have no restrictions on how many and what I can have. Judy likes it. If I have a JPEG, I can use it for either a picture or a background for Zoom. I can use it for my wallpaper, because They just use the pictures. This is our classroom. I've mentioned it a lot of times. This is our classroom when in the heydays. We have 12 working stations, plus we have tables for people to sit. This was a program on photo editing, so we had a lot of people there. So anyway, it just opens up. Now, let's talk about, I want to listen to music. And this is one of my favorite sounds. I think you should be able to hear it because it's supposed to be triggered. Did you hear that one?
Yeah, big time.
Did you? Yeah. Wow.
I love it.
Do you remember it?
I know it's almost there, but not. So what is it?
It was years ago when they came out with the big stereo sound at the movie theaters.
Okay.
The new whole thing. That was the THX, and that was always started out. Oh, it was great. But again, it just opened up what you started with. I'm going to do this one because I want to see. So if I go up here to my menu, this is called celluloid. And it's based on a MPV, which is a movie player. This is also a piece my son wrote. But it just opens it up. Now, if celluloid doesn't have enough features, then I can go get something else. And of course, all of the Linux pretty much all come with VLC. Except this one didn't. So, you know, you play it. So I can listen to music. If I want to watch a video, we have a program under videos. And
I'm sorry you didn't have Take My Breath Away from Berlin as a choice.
that what?
You didn't have Take My Breath Away by Berlin as a choice for me.
Yeah. So video, and video is done by celluloid. So celluloid can play videos and music. I can create a video. There's a program called Cheese. It doesn't always come with it because not everybody wants to, but I can use it as a webcam to create a web message and stuff like that. Oh, this one's familiar to should be to most Windows people. That's your standard video that comes with by default for testing out your video on your Windows computer. So yeah, so if we go back and take one last quick look. Nope, not that's in the file. Go back, close all that. Go back to our settings. I just wanted to show you that if we go to graphics, where'd Flameshot come from? It's not supposed to be there. You get a document scanner, a drawing program. This really me? Yeah. There we go. I'm in the wrong program. I'm I'm not full screen. So here, so if we go to graphics, you come with a document scanner. If you have a scanner, it already comes with you. We have a program for drawing, simple drawing, and we have a program for viewing and organizing your pictures called Pick. You know, so you can do a lot. So that's what comes standard. You have about everything you need to start with, and then you can go add any more. If you're on the internet, you get, don't forget, I added the Chromium one, but you get a browser, you get a chat program, an email program, a transmission program, which is sending files, and then something I haven't really learned about is how you run web apps as in a websites as an app. That's something new. Office, all your Office stuff, sound and video. There you get your plays movies and videos. Rhythm box plays music, and then here's your sound controls. basically what you need. HypoNext is something I got to show you real quick. It comes with Mint. It's a streaming video service that you can get. And I can go here and I can go to any country we want. And I'll go to Portugal because it's one. And cross my fingers that if we run that, I can see videos. So it comes with free TV in the Mate or in Mint. So that's something special about Mint. And then that's the system tools and all. So that's kind of in the life. And if you see, I pretty well do everything that you can do with the same kind of programs, just different names because we have choices. Judy.
I have a bunch of questions for you that are not necessarily specific, but one right now is OrphanView work with Linux?
I don't know. Dave, go look it up.
Dave Melton.
I don't like OrphanView, and I've got other things.
Right.
And the problem is OrphanView is good, but it's up to them whether they want to make a cross-platform or not.
Right.
I have
So
other programs that I like better.
And we did have a please demo Thunderbird, but if we do our meeting where we have people demo Impress, Calc, and Writer so people can see exactly how it works, we could also have somebody demo Thunderbird and other Linux friendly programs, so to speak.
I can tell people that if you're old as me and you started out using Outlook Express, yeah, same thing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Judy, what was the name of that program?
OrphanView, IRF. Go ahead.
I think I saw it, John, when you had the graphics thing up.
IRF.
The little top hat.
VIEW, and I believe that is what John Metcalf uses.
As I said, I thought I saw it when he had graphics up. The little top
I'll
hat.
do that real quick.
We're using our source here for the internet question. And I offered Gramps as a genealogy program also.
Yep.
And that's an Orv Beach question.
Yeah, I'm not knowing for sure that OrphanView. You'd go to OrphanView and see if they're cross-platform.
Now, you see, I'd appreciate that if it was in alphabetical order.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, sorry.
It appears to me, doing a quick search, if I typed it correctly, it suggests downloading Wine.
Oh, yeah. So it's a
an
Windows
emulator for Windows.
Yeah, it's a Windows program that you can run in Wine. OrphanView said there's not enough of you in Linux that would use this because we have a whole bunch of other good ones that are native to Linux.
Okay, then I have a Wine question.
Okay, it's not a beginner's, but go ahead.
Okay, does Wine really work for using apps like Quicken?
It can.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
We've discussed that before.
Yeah, what you have to do with Wine is you go to Wine and they have a list of these programs work perfect, these work pretty good, these work good, these work bad. I think they're in categories of Olympics with gold, silver, whatever. And you know, some programs work better than others in Wine.
And explain what Wine is, please.
Wine is not an emulator, W-I-N-E. It's a program that, like VirtualBox, that lets you run operating systems inside of yours. It lets you run non-native programs like Windows programs in Linux. I don't do that because to do that, I have to allow Windows programs to get into my system, and then
You're a purist.
sort of. But then again, I've got the programs in Linux that I need, so most of that Wine stuff I don't do. But there are other people that use Wine, so I won't say anything bad about it. But that's what you do, is you run Wine, and it's a container that lets you run exe programs in a sense.
Maybe we can find somebody that would like to demonstrate that one time. What a concept. A question. Can I use my 2001 laptop to format and install the Linux OS? And how do I do that?
Well, I can pick up the one that's sitting to my left of me and yep, you just have to have a, like we've done before in others, so we won't go too detail. You've got to have the install media, just like you do with Windows, and boot to it and install it. And I have a 2008 that's still running, Linux, and a 2001. You're talking 20-year-old device, but there's probably we have a light Linuxes that will probably run on it, but I'm guessing that your hardware is going to start to go after 20 years.
So if you have it ready to install, you just install it and Windows goes away?
As a choice, my choice would be yes, because a 20-year-old Windows would be running it. You have a choice. We talked before. You could either replace Windows with Linux. You can run them side by side, which I don't advise. So you have two options.
Okay. Steve Parker uses an animated rocket ship for his mouse pointer.
Good. And the other thing to point out is that just because the default is a black or white, mouse, you can go out and add different kind of mouse. Somebody has designed colorful mices. Somebody has designed fancy shaped, and you can get it. But it's the kind of thing when I was teaching middle school, we were teaching PowerPoint at the time, and then we started teaching Impress because I switched. Kids can get really, really crazy over animation. They can get crazy over transitions with them, get crazy with backgrounds. And we try to teach people it's the topic and the concepts that trying to get across, not how it looks. So, you're using a mouse to point and click. Spending all this time of getting fancy looking ones, colorful looking ones, does it make it work any better? No. Keep it simple.
It's more fun.
The best thing is to be able to find it on your desktop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you install Linux Mint without uninstalling Windows?
Go back to look at our stuff, our Learning Linux. We talked about dual booting. It's a process that when you install, it says, hey, you've got Windows. Do you want to keep it? And we'll install Linux beside it. And then it works. And then whenever you start your computer up, it says, what do you want to use, Windows or Linux? Our problem is that Windows doesn't like you doing that. And so sometimes when they do updates, it crashes your computer because they're not a Linux.
Is it easy to install Linux Mint to an old laptop, a Windows laptop that doesn't update anymore?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You just have to find the right one that meets the specs at your laptop. Like I said, I wouldn't put one of the newer strong versions of Linux on my old 2008 laptop, but I'm using a lightweight Linux and it works.
You can do an internet search and find all kinds of references to light Linux for old computers.
Exactly. Thanks, Dave.
And even I knew the answer to that too. You said that before. Would you create an ISO or bootable USB to do that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Well, let me clarify. You take an ISO to create a bootable thumb drive. The ISO is what everybody gets, even with Windows. When you go to Microsoft and you want Windows 10, you download a file that's an ISO, but they might not call it an ISO, and then you use it to create the, what do they call it, Bill, upgrade assistant?
Windows
and then you can
Assistant.
use that. Yeah, Windows Assistant.
The Windows System Upgrader, yeah.
Yeah. And all you're creating is a bootable thumb drive that has the installation package on it.
And that's what it says right here.
So to create a bootable device, you need three things. You need a flash drive, a thumb drive. you need the ISO file and you need an image creator. And there's lots of those available as well to download.
Okay.
And you
And-
probably have one built in.
Yeah. And right there, I have the program I installed that we use is called Etcher.
Etcher, yeah.
The one that comes with it is the USB image writer or the USB stick formatter. So we format the USB, then we image it. But we like to use Etcher as a real good program to use to make those. That's what I use.
Okay, and it's interesting, somebody's volunteered to do a digital photo presentation, and
Perfect.
he said,
Awesome.
well, now, wait a minute, and he wants to talk about, you know, he gave a presentation ISO, and he said it is not pronounced ISO, it is ISO. You learn something new all the time. I am using Linux Cinnamon. Do I need to reinstall Linux Mint to change to different home screens like you are using?
Different home screens. I am using workspaces or virtual desktops that I'm switching from. This is my work one. That'll switch me back to Zoom. That'll switch me to my virtual box. Those are workspaces, and they come with Linux. Linux has had workspaces for a long time. Microsoft is the new, just, you know, new person to the.
What I meant was a desktop. I think you're using Mate.
Yes.
Do I have to reinstall the whole thing? Or can I?
No, because one of the things you can do is you can install the second desktop, and then when you log in, it'll say which desktop do you want to use. You can use Cinnamon or Mate.
So is that a download that I can just download from the software manager?
Now let's look real quick here because I'm on Mate, and if we go to here and I do CINNAMON, there it is, Cinnamon Modern Linux Desktop. So I could download that, and then when I rebooted at this login screen, there's a button at the top, and it would give me two choices. Now, I can't say, maybe Dave, you can, or Orv could, what it does when it, you know, installs it, because you got to remember it's still the same operating system at the bottom, and they put the two desktops in, and so when you log in, you're picking one or the other. I don't know how much it does, if anything, to affect, or you may end up with some double programs because the Cinnamon puts in its file manager and Mate has it, so now you got two different file managers at the same time. But that's not bad. I have two.
So what I have experienced by doing that is, for example, I use Pop OS, and they come with their desktop, and I installed KDE alongside of the Pop OS desktop, and you get a combination of both.
Okay.
So you end up with the programs available from each distribute or each desktop environment.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's easier. I tell people, create a thumb drive and boot from the thumb drive and test out. And then when you decide which one you like better, then do your full reinstall. Just a quick look. Here's the a different file manager. This is the PC Man FM that I said wasn't bad, and it's very similar. It put things different. Notice it puts my folders at the bottom and put the places up at the top. They thought that was better. So, you know, it's you just try them out. And here, the big thing again, the number one thing about Linux is everything is free. So it doesn't cost you anything to try anything out. And then if you don't like it, get rid of it and find something different.
Is there an app to display network traffic by process?
By process.
That is not a beginning question, but the answer is yes.
Okay, that's it.
But you know, you have to go and find the program you want, because that's not going to come default, because that's not something everyday users do.
Okay, can you start your Linux desktop with external hard drive startup?
Absolutely, because it boots from whatever you have.
Is that same as using a flash drive?
Yeah,
I did the opposite. I did, I did it where I can take I can install Linux on a external drive, plug it in, and boot to the external drive, and I'm running Linux.
Okay.
Um,
Can you use Google Apps on Mint?
Google Apps is an app, is a web program.
Yes.
It has nothing to do. So the answer is yes.
Okay, hold on.
I can use Microsoft web apps because it's a web app.
Does it work wonderfully with 32-bit processors from back in the day?
If you get a version of Linux that works on 32-bit, and there are some still out there. More and more are dropping the 32-bit because 32-bit is obsolete, so old that people are saying, why are you using 32-bit? But since there are some, yes, you go to, like we've talked about on our website, on our workshops, go to distrotube.com and do a search for 32-bit operating systems. And they'll tell you, here are the few that still maintain 32-bit.
that's what you would need for that 2001 laptop.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. How much RAM is ideal for running this?
2 gigs. I use 4, 8, but you can go way lower than what Microsoft requirements are. That's why when you go to old laptops and desktops, you're lucky sometimes to get 4 gigs. And again, as Dave pointed out, he would say, all we do is go and do a search for low RAM, low RAM specs for Linux, and you'll find a whole bunch of them that'll run. We even have Linux that'll run on a gig or less.
Some old computers don't boot from USB, so you need to use a CD DVD drive. That's from Tim from Chicago, in Chicago.
That's
Yeah,
a very
Tim.
good point.
That's a good
Good
point. And the newer laptops don't even have a CD, so you have to boot. So I have a collection of Linux CDs that it can't work on my new laptop that I got. So yeah, and I like them sometimes easier because they're fun to make.
I think you answered this, but can hackers get into Linux Mint?
Hackers have a harder time getting into Linux because, as I said, you can't do anything in Linux without administrative approval. And so you have to be the one who allows something to happen. And that's usually what the factor is when you hear about Linux having a problem. It's a human negligence in allowing something to happen that they shouldn't have, not doing something like updating that they should have. Because on its own, things do not run unless, like I said, I couldn't even install that program without saying yes. So if I can't install a program, a hacker couldn't.
So that the cartoon that says the problem is between the chair and the monitor.
Correct. Yep.
It's also. How do you ask Linux Mint to hide your computer IP address?
Ooh, they're asking non-beginner questions.
Wow.
That would be in your wireless settings. I just looked, when I set up my phone for doing the hotspot, there's a setting that says hide your IP address from public view.
I have an old Windows XP laptop with Ubuntu installed, which has all the software.
Yep.
The main reason I keep it is to burn CDs or DVDs because my newer laptops don't have those things. It still runs like a new computer.
Thank you for that vote of confidence there.
How do you set up a Linux admin password and remember to make it an extremely good password? 12 characters at a minimum. Use a passphrase. That was just my answer.
Yeah, that's it. When you create the first user, he's the admin, and it just says create a user, and you can create a password unreliable or very strong. It's up to you. So
Would you like to demo that again?
US.
Now, stop. How would you get there without searching for it?
Oh, I'd go to control panel and go to my users, but it's easier to go type users.
I know, but we had an attendee who uses his mouse for everything.
Okay, so you go to your control panel or control center in this case. So first thing, nobody can add a user, so a hacker couldn't add a user without your password.
Okay. And so when you first set that up, it automatically says, give me a password, and you are the administrator.
Yeah, see, this time it won't do it when I add it, because notice it said that when I added Judy, she was custom.
Thank you.
And so when you get the user, the next thing is it says password. Let me just do a quick one. Judy again. And there is no restrictions. So if I think if I just did 1, 2, it will say something. Yeah, that's too short. Has to be at least 5.
Oh,
But see, they recommend letters, numbers, special characters.
hang on.
So, it's up to you. This count is disabled
I've been disabled.
because we didn't finish it out.
That's
So
right.
I'm going to delete Judy.
My other one is there.
And just like in Windows, when I delete you, I can remove your, don't remove the account, keep the files, delete everything.
Let's see if we have any live questions, because I am at the end of my chat box questions. Oh,
All right.
hold that thought. What is the sys joker threat? Have you heard of it?
Yep, just read about it. And it's Mike Ungerman was one that sent out to our group, and I read that, and it just all is mumbo jumbo to me. I need somebody to take it down to everyday use, because it was just kind of crazy. And again, it sounded like it was mostly designed to attack servers. I'm not a server. I'm a lowly little home user. Nobody really cares about me. But yeah, there's something out there, but
Yeah, and he's gone on to his next meeting. But anyway, that's a question for DuckDuckGo.
Yeah,
I
it
need to
is.
go.
There,
I need to go shut down my.
you need to DuckDuckGo it. Does anybody have a question? Unmute yourself if you do.
Not you got to get a second. I
Hold
got to
on,
get
hold
permission.
on. Wait till he gets where. Is it that cold at your house, Cal? Just asking.
Oh, wrong mouse again.
You're muted. Oh, yeah. Come, I thought that would work with Betty's red one.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to use. Okay, allow participants to unmute when they want to.
Okay.
And I'm back. And
All
then
right.
I'm going to slide my keyboard back under.
Using the raise hand, the reactions raise hand option, do we have any more questions?
Yeah,
God,
especially
it appears as though
from
you covered
beginners.
everything.
Yeah, especially from beginners. My goal is you're walking away from here and you're not fearing the penguin.
We should have added that to the blurb. Jerry, you're on. Unmute yourself, please.
As in Jerry Crow.
Here he is. Lower left-hand corner, all the way to the left. Click on your mic. It's not working.
Yeah.
Unmute. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, I tried to unmute and it said host is not allowing.
You
Okay,
did it too soon before I said the magic words.
whatever. Okay. Well, I had two things. I thought I'd point out first, there's a minor correction. You cannot move that taskbar around on Windows 11. It must.
I wasn't, yeah, I
Right.
wasn't talking 11 yet.
You said 11 when you were talking though, on
Oh.
Windows 11. And
Right.
that is what, and I do the, let me start over. I've had my Windows taskbar on the left side since Windows XP, okay?
Yeah,
And so I will never go to 11 unless they allow me to do that. I'm so used to that.
Mhm.
And I also use the quick launch bar, which is effectively the same thing you showed, John.
yeah.
Okay, two, I looked for Mint. It doesn't appear that there's any version other than Intel AMD. I was looking for an ARM version so I could see if it would fit on my Raspberry Pi. I just downloaded that and installed the Raspberry Pi OS on it. So, and did that in the last week or two, playing around with it, so.
Okay,
But-
I'm thought there was, but
Well, I looked on the Mint website, didn't say anything about ARM, but if you could, if
Yeah,
you know where there
I'm-
is, go ahead,
yeah, I'm checking.
because I downloaded the ARM version. I downloaded the ISO for the regular version. Now I got to find a program to convert that to bootable. Actually,
On Windows, who knows the Windows? It's not Etcher, it's a, oh, since I'm not using, yeah, there's a program you download so you can do it pretty easy.
okay,
And somebody else will think of that in just a minute.
Will you, John, unmute Harmon?
I can't.
Oh, then Harmon, unmute yourself, please. You can't, they can't do it. John.
while they're looking for that, I'll mention that when I first get to Mint, John, I'm going to use it on VMware, a virtual machine.
Yeah,
But I have another laptop that I think I might install Mint on native, just to play with it. So,
Okay,
Judy, I have it marked that everybody can unmute themselves.
I have a comment from Steve Parker with the rocket mouse. P:/OERISO. And Tim says the other Windows installer might be Rufus.
Yep,
Roof.
that's it.
That's it.
Okay. And Dave, can you answer the question that I sent you?
Let me find the question.
Thank you. And over to Linda. Oh,
Yeah.
hold on, Linda. Harmon's next. He's got an answer that he gave like this that I didn't understand.
And he's unmuted. He did it.
Okay, you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Pendrive.com, download something called Yumi, that's YUMI, to create a multi-boot Linux installation on USB. When installing this into an older computer, you must hit the escape key when you're first booting it up, get into the start menu, have the USB be your first selection ahead of a CD drive or anything like that. And then you'll be able to use this multi-boot software, which works perfectly fine. I've got many USB sticks with all kinds of Linux distros on.
Thank you. Over to Linda.
Try to unmute because evidently there's something on the side because Harmon finally got his.
Mm-mm.
Oh, since we can't see Linda, we can't tell if she's trying. or
Yeah, and
not.
I can't find her on the participants list to try to unmute her from there.
Now she's on the chat. I said, she's right at the top of the participant list because she's got her hand up.
Oh, sorry.
I see the microphone is on, so she should be able to talk unless she's got herself mic muted, because I can see that she's talking right now. I can see the line in the microphone going up and down.
Okay. Let's see if Sandy can talk. She's next in line.
No, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to pass on that John has done an excellent job of presenting information to make me feel I want to try Linux now.
Thank you. Oh, Linda. Talk to us. Nope. Interesting. Anybody else have a question?
John does.
John, I had you covered up there for a minute. Can you unmute yourself? That's weird.
Yeah.
How about John, if you mute everybody and then
How's
unmute
this?
again?
Oh, there's John.
Okay. You can use Ventoy to create a multiple
Oh,
multiple distribution.
John, I just added that to the chat box. You'll get
yes.
you'll get a printout of it.
Yeah, somebody asked the question about where you find different Linux versions. It's distrowatch.com.
Okay.
We ask and say, tell them about that every one we have. So I have a gazillion more messages here. Oh, it's all about I can't do anything. Ba, 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 ba.
John did such a good job. We don't have any more questions.
Yeah, well, if they did, they can't ask them.
Oh, well, there's no raised hands.
So if you have any questions, put them in the chat box. And I shall read them. No more questions? Yes, I can see this on the chat box. This really truly is one of those warts and all.
You had to prove your point, didn't you, Judy?
Well, John started it when he called, about 20 to 9 this morning. Okay, our time.
Whoops.
Somebody wants to know why somebody doesn't use CardioDoc.
Cardio what?
Doc. Oh, I'm sorry. Cairo Doc, as in Egypt.
I don't know anything about it.
Anybody heard anything about that? Mr. Kennedy is no longer with us.
I guess he dropped out, didn't he?
Well, he actually had spectrum lines on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. And co-hosts can't unmute everybody. Oh, wait a minute. Let me see. Okay, Linda. Can somebody unmute themselves and talk?
Yeah, we can unmute now.
Thank you.
Because you're a host.
I did it as a co-host. I didn't realize he wasn't here.
Yeah, so when he dropped out, you became the host. Now you're able to unmute everybody.
Well, I didn't know he was gone. Anybody else have any comments?
Well, Linda.
Regarding that person who was, I believe it was a woman, who wanted to learn more about Linux, distrotest.net is a way of, on a Windows computer, to go out and look at through your browser different distros and how they look and how they feel. And it's a good option when you're trying to dip your toes in the water.
And say that again, slowly.
It's distrotest.net, N-E-T.
Thank you.
Very good point, Tim. I forgot about them.
Any other questions?
Yes,
Now that we can unmute ourselves, come on.
is it? I'm on mute actually. I am. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I don't know who you are because you didn't raise your hand, so I couldn't call on you.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay, go.
Yeah, question is that if I want to use a external hard drive to reboot my computer for Linux, then can I use several different Linux operating system? One of them is Mint, one of them is something else and something else. Is it something that I can do with one computer and use 3 different external drive to just boot my computer and use them, and I can go to any of them at any time? I mean, you log out and then you log in, reboot from the different hard drive. Sorry about that.
I think the answer is yes. I think you can use a tool like Ventoy to create a hard drive, just like you would a flash drive, although I have not tried that on an external drive.
Yeah, you just need to tell your BIOS which USB device it is you're booting from.
Correct.
Tim, you have an answer also.
Well, I have on several machines where I swap in and out different disk drives, laptop and desktop, so that I can use it without playing around with like a Ventoy or Yummy or individual drives plugged into the USB port. So it's kind of a case where you got to choose the way that works best for you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We have people here who can answer them.
I was a little confused about that last question. Does he mean he wishes to have a version of Linux? And I say Linux because that's what Linus Torvald said it's pronounced as. Linux running one version of Linux referencing several external drives. Like I've got 7 or 8 external drives on my Windows system, and I can just move them around, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Or did he mean he has 4 or 5 external drives, each with a version of Linux on it, and he wants to boot from them?
Each external drive for a different Linux operating system.
Oh, yeah, okay, that could work, sure, sure, okay.
Yeah, did you say yes, you can do that?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know why not. You could now.
Yeah, you can. You just have to tell your computer which one you're wanting to boot from.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay. Next Wednesday, we have been asked for a Chromebook presentation. So Bill James will be giving his Chromebook for Geeks presentation, of course, using his Chromebook. And so to go along with that, the Geeks on Tour, Chris and Jim Gould, will be with us for the second presentation, and she will be using Snapseed, a digital editing program, and she also will be using her Chromebook. And it's interesting that Google bought Snapseed from Nick Multimedia, who used to be a sponsor of my Southwest Technology Conference in San Diego. And I was able to send her a picture of 2004 at our vendor fair when the Nick Media representative was talking to everybody before she did a drawing for 2 or 3 pieces of software. They were always quite generous with everything.
Cool.
The virtual technology conferences are going away, so to speak. It was extremely difficult to get people to give presentations because so many are afraid of giving a presentation and they can't see anybody. You do it once and it's no big deal, but it was like pulling teeth, and it was down to, I would have had to have the same people over and over again. So the decision was made for me that we would no longer have them. And then John and I thought, well, we still need something on Saturdays because there's people that can't be here on Wednesday. So we're going to have Saturday Safari workshops, learning about the world, in exploring technology in depth. And the first one will be on February 12th. And, oh, John's back. And I'll be sending information out about that, and it will be the same thing as we do these, either one presentation for the whole time, 2 presentations, or a couple of panels. Anybody have any questions about that?
Not that. I got questions about why computers don't work right all the time.
I'm sorry. After I didn't know you were gone.
I know.
We couldn't unmute anything. And then finally I said, well, maybe as co-host I can. And I was the host. I had no clue. I got the chat box up here and it covers up a lot of the screen.
Yeah, I think AT&T on the hotspot shut me down for 2 hours and 40 minutes on hotspot.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So I'm back on regular line now because I had to reboot the system.
Well, congratulations to Spectrum.
Took them finally.
I know. So. Anyway, we did have some questions. They were answered by various and sundry people. And I keep asking if there's any more questions, and there haven't been. So I talked about no VTCs. Raise your hand. And John, who just has John there, you're not getting any of the follow-up material unless I have your last name, because we have a gazillion Johns attending this workshop.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm new to this Zoom stuff and kind of hard to find my way around.
If you right-click on your name, it will pop up where you can rename it yourself and just add your last name.
Yeah, we forgot since I was behind schedule to remind everybody to make sure their name was the same as the one that you registered with, because Zoom doesn't match up to your Google registration name.
Okay, and we also didn't have the opportunity to say, if you leave your computer, please stop your video. Turn it back on when you get back. I have questions in the chat box. Should you use Cairo Doc instead of creating a side panel?
Not a beginner's question. They can submit that for the Learning Linux group.
We already talked about it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said,
Linda lost her toolbar for Zoom. Could anybody have a clue that that's happened to them? Oh, Tim, of course you have an answer. Go for it, kiddo.
Well, offhand, you might hit the escape key. It will resize the Zoom window. You can make it full screen, but still see your operating system taskbar at the bottom.
Would you try that and let us know if it works?
Yeah, because we have the settings set for always show the Zoom bar.
Right. Or if you just put your mouse pointer down, because I'm in and out of here all the time with the escape key, because I'm typing my questions in Word so I can ask them one after the other. Linda, did that work?
If she wants to talk, she can hit the Alt A and that'll turn her microphone back on.
Mm-hmm. Or press and hold the space bar.
So the one thing that Dave and I would add.
Oh, it's not the toolbar. It's her actual Windows taskbar. If you press the escape key, like I do, your Windows taskbar pops up.
As I started to say that you know, Dave would agree with me, and if Orv or Cal were here, that if you have ideas for the Learning Linux workshop, which there were a number of questions today that should be referred to that, put them in the chat box, because we're going to be meeting and say, okay, what are we going to do at the February and March Learning Linux workshops?
Hey, I was ready to tell everybody after they got on this morning that they were going to be able to do this in February. If it didn't work for you.
Oh, yeah. But I think we got through it, so that was good.
We did.
Did you announce next week's workshop?
I certainly did. And
Which one is that one?
That's Chromebooks for Geeks.
Okay.
And Chris Gould with Snapseed. I keep pronouncing it Snapseed, but it's Snapseed. And apparently it's a way cool editing program that you can use with Android and your iPhone stuff.
It's called Snapseed?
Yes, as in
Snap peas, but Snapseed.
seed, yes.
Oh, seed?
Seed, S-E-E-D.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
S-E-E-D, okay.
Yes, I finalized that last night.
Okay, so that's the double one for next week. Good.
Yes. So, any more questions? Any ideas of things that you would like to have a presentation on? Anything that you would like the panel, the team to do, that you could join the team for, just maybe that one workshop, because you don't really want to do it all by yourself? We're open to all kinds of options. We just don't want to have the same people doing it over and over and over again. The Speakers Bureau was put together because group members got tired of the same people in their group giving presentations, and the people in the group got tired of giving those presentations. We don't want that to happen with our Wednesday workshops or the upcoming Saturday safaris. And it's just exactly like when I attend meetings and somebody says, now, what would you like next month? And everybody sits there, boom, keys lock their mouths and the keys have gone away. And I was hoping somebody out of the 59 people still here would have an idea or two. I'm the one who keeps coming up with a lot of the ideas, and I'm not a Linux user, okay, you guys? Oh, I got 5 new messages. Oh, yes, I'll be sending out the Chromebook stuff tonight. Oh, HR has a Dell business computer running Linux Mint. It's 18 years old. That's Harmon. Absolutely amazing. John, take us away. Oh, someone would like to see a demo on setting up Bitwarden. How do I install? Would you like to speak again about how you install Mint without destroying Windows?
In the installation process, you're given the option. Do you want to wipe out Windows and install Linux side by side, or do you want to wipe out Linux or install them side by side?
Do you want to wipe out Windows or install them side by side? When you turn and you say side by side and you turn your computer off, like I don't, and you turn that back on again, what do you see?
It says, do you want to boot to Linux or do you want to boot to Windows?
Easy as that.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything else? Take us away, John.
Well, when I take away, you're going to have to do the shutdown because I'm just a regular user.
Oh, well, say
No,
it again.
yeah, yep. We'd like to thank everybody for joining us. I'd like to thank Dave for popping in to be the guy who looks up answers. And of course, for Bill and Judy for all they do for our Wednesday workshops. We'll be back again next week and next month, and look forward to your attending and share this information with your different members in the clubs. Thank everybody, and hope to see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Now you get to do the big number where you hit the button to shut it down.
Yes, and I saved my chat too.